Well, good morning everyone, and how are you doing today? That's wonderful. We got this guy behind us. It's a Honda CRV, and it's in for a bunch of new stuff. This is gonna be a fun one. The guy that owns this car is a big Apple fanboy. He's got the watch, he's got the phone. I didn't even ask him about the computers. Doesn't really matter. He's in the ecosystem, so he bought one of these guys right here. That's right, he's got the ILX 107, he's got the new 10, he's got the cool wireless charging on his dash. This guy right here. So naturally, because he's in the wireless world, he wants wireless CarPlay. He's gonna do a little bit of sound improvement too by adding these. We're gonna put a set of the 7-inch Kenwood mid-range monsters up in his door. He really likes mid-range, so we figured the 7-inch would be the way to go. We're gonna power those off of the brick amp. That's this guy right here. That's the Alpine KTP 445U little brick amp. We're gonna use this to power those, and also this little guy right here. This is a Pioneer shallow mount down-firing 8-inch. This is the one we put in the back of the Toyotas all the time, that 4Runner subwoofer. He just wants a little bit more bass, not a lot. We figured this combination with the mid-range monsters and that little subwoofer, that'll give him a little bit more impact to his music. He's more excited about that radio, and of course he's already downloaded to his phone the Alpine Tune-It app because he knows the 107 only has bass and treble, which he's actually excited about, because the first thing he said to me is like, look, my son likes to get in my car and screw with all my settings. Is he gonna mess my radio up? I was like, no, you have the Tune-It app. With the Tune-It app, we can save the settings. He's only gonna have access to bass and treble, and if he screws it up, all you gotta do is go into the Tune-It app, recall your settings. It's pretty cool. Right now, what we wanna do, as you can see, Fernando's in the car. He's taking some pre-pictures because he wants to make a pretty Instagram post. Right?
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and start getting the radio out of the dash and figure out the features that he's going to lose. Now, we've already done a lot of research on this and we've talked back and forth with the customer. And the reason why, let me show you the dash in this. So he has the CRV that has the factory navigation screen. This is a premium upgrade for this car. It's also got a USB and an aux jack in here, way down there. This says USB. This really isn't a USB. It's some funky plug that they use. We'll figure out something for that for sure. Not that he really needs it, because this is wireless. The whole cool thing about it is wireless, so we're not real worried about that. But it also has a backup camera. Now, anytime you're replacing a backup camera on a Honda, Hondas have this cool DSP for the backup camera that does weird things. You have like different view options. You're gonna lose all that. So most of the time what we've found is when you do it, it automatically defaults to super wide screen, which we've talked to him about, and he's actually pretty excited about that because he's like, he doesn't like the factory camera right now as it is. He's like, it's not wide enough already. I'm like, okay. So we might be in luck there. Those are a few of the hurdles, plus it's got this top screen up here. And that was that beeping sound. Fernando was going through some of the features that are up in that. We're hoping that that will still work. We don't know yet. We're gonna test it. Ready?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna start pulling this thing out. Let's start the video, shall we? So anytime you're getting ready to remove a radio, obviously the dash kits, American International, this is Best Kits, they come with instructions. Go ahead and read through these. It'll give you a good idea of how to take it out. If you want to get an idea beforehand, metroonline.com is a great resource for instructions that you can download and view before you get started. According to these instructions, the first thing we want to do is go ahead and remove these two air vents so we can get to the screws behind it. So using a soft pry tool, the plastic, dash things that we like to use, go ahead and remove those. So holding the radio in place is just 2 screws on either side. They're Phillips head. That's a total of 2 screws. Now it is just clipped into the dash, and it's really clipped in. So you gotta really grab on this thing. Now, anytime you're sliding a radio out of the dash, it's a good thing to have something to put underneath it like this. This is where a lot of the scratching happens. We like to use just a piece of carpet. You're gonna have to give it a good yanking. There's a clip here on the top for the hazard switch. Go ahead and remove that, and then work your hands underneath it if you can. This is where our partner comes in handy. Tip the radio so that he can see it. You just hold on tight. Oh, this is Sirius XM. Oh, that is so cool. So this is the GPS antenna. This is the FM, but it's an FM. So let's take a look at the back of the radio real quick. So what we got going on, this is the neatest thing right here. So this has Sirius XM, he's not retaining it, but this part of it here, this is his Sirius XM, this is his FM. This splits this off. It's just a standard antenna coming in. That's really bizarre, but Honda's known for doing strange things. You got GPS antenna here, some form of USB connector. Hondas, there again, finding a USB retention cable for these is a hit or miss. Sometimes we have them, most of the time we don't. And then of course you have the main power plug, and then there's probably, and then the rest of these. There's a lot of plugs on the back of this radio. But then again, this radio is doing a lot of communication into the car. So we got all these guys here to deal with. Let's go over to the bench for a minute. So our first attempt at trying to get things to function is going to be using this guy here, which is the RP4 HD11. This is the smart harness that Pack makes for the Hondas. Our hopes is that this is going to give us what we need. It has a lot of the connectors on it. We're going to go ahead and get this plugged in, turn the car on, and see what's missing. Now before we plug it in, we're going to go ahead and make sure it's set to Alpine, which is number 1 on the dial. That way if it does work, we're cool. Now in a lot of cases when we're doing these cars and they have this like octopus headed harness in the dash, do yourself a favor, break it up, because you're gonna run into a lot of harnesses that you're not gonna need, and it's nice to be able to tuck those out of the way. We'll test to tape it back up before we put it all back together. All right, so I have this little subwoofer, which I don't think this has a factory subwoofer, so we'll set that aside for right now. We have the main harness here. I thought this came with a rear view camera retention.
Yeah, which one is this?
This one, this should have the backup. All right, hold on. This ain't good for sure.
Even Metra doesn't have nothing.
Yeah, this is the wrong harness for this. It's okay, we'll figure it out. All right, let's go ahead and turn the car on. Go ahead and check that, see what we have left. Go into display setup. All right, let's see, work the steering wheel controls.
Yeah.
I got nothing so far. Give me a voltmeter. See if this is giving us an accessory.
1 and 3 of the big one.
Yeah, that's constant power. Then C2. Connect view from, that's probably white analog. That's probably going to be here in the steering wheel, I'm guessing. Okay, C3 can be found hands-free link, which is located behind the glove box. All right, so what we've come up with is that this is not the right harness for the car, and how we establish that is it is not generating an accessory wire. So if this was the MS CAN that it could have been, the red wire would put out an accessory. We figured that out by obviously just taking a digital multimeter, connecting it to the red wire, and seeing if it had accessory power. It didn't, so then we probed the plug to see if it had accessory power. It does. So now we're going to switch from using this guy to using the CP2 for the steering wheel control interface. According to that, there's wires here. There's also a module behind the glove box that we have to get to. There is no module that will allow us to retain the factory backup camera, simple plug and play option, so we're gonna have to hunt to find that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take this back over to the store, grab a CP2, grab a basic harness, and I'll be right back.
It's another USB in there.
Oh, there's no USB in here? Where? Up here?
Down the corner.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
That might be for something else though. So this is the CP2 we're going to use to do the steering wheel. This is the regular harness we're going to use, the 1729, this guy. Fernando went ahead and plugged the radio back in. We're going to go ahead and do some testing. So here's the backup camera. This is the DSP we were talking about. What we want to do now is go ahead and disconnect harnesses until we find the harness that has the actual camera image on it. I think it's this one. Okay, so it's not that one. It's not that one.
There you go.
Did that shut the radio off though? That shut the radio off. All right, so that method isn't gonna work for this because the two other harnesses are just killing the radio. Oh no, this one doesn't. All right, let's go ahead and put it in reverse. Ah, we might have a winner.
Plug it back in.
Ah, we have a winner. So on the back of the radio, we have a 7-pin little gray guy right here that this is controlling into. Now it could be just something as simple as a reverse trigger. We don't know yet. Now we're gonna do a little bit of testing and see what this guy is doing to the car. Go ahead and take our probes. We're gonna take our meter, we're gonna set it to DC, and let's see what we got here. Is it still in reverse?
It's in reverse.
All right, let's see. Alright, so none of these are giving us a trigger for reverse, which is fine. I'm gonna unplug this other plug and test those. Alright, so we found the reverse trigger. It's actually on the second gray harness. It is a tan brown wire here. It's a brown wire in this plug, all the way in the corner here next to a red wire. This is a 20-pin connector over here. Alright, so we have one of the wires we need. We're going to go ahead and plug the camera plug back in, or the assumed camera plug. And we're going to look for our 6-volt trigger. Alright, so go ahead and take it out of reverse. Oh, cool. That could stay on. Alright, put it back in reverse. Alright, go ahead and take it down. Alright, so this might be an 8-volt camera, which is okay. It'll still work with 6. We're going to go ahead and just temporarily think that those are them. On the back of the radio, we have a yellow and a green in that 7-pin plug. We're going to assume those might be what we need to power the camera. And the way we tested that is we shut the ignition off. It went off with ignition. It didn't go off when we changed between park and reverse, but that's okay. A lot of the times these cameras stay powered up as soon as the radio gets powered up, just like when we're putting in an aftermarket radio. Now what we want to go ahead and do is grab our signal camera tester. Now we want to try to test to find the actual camera signal. Wow, I think we're in business. We have an image here, very similar to the one that we're looking at on the screen. So on this harness, like we said, it's the 7-pin harness, and it has in order a black, gray, red, white, a gap, a green, and a yellow. The black is going to be signal negative, and the red is going to be signal positive. And then the green and yellow will be our power feeds, which I'll tell you what positive and negative is here in a minute. All right, so the yellow is positive and the green is negative. So at this point, we have a good idea of what we're looking at as far as the backup camera goes. What we want to do is try to replicate it with the radio unplugged. So we're going to go ahead and turn the key off, put it back in park, get this guy out of here. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and attach an RCA to the camera feeds, because those are definite. There's no guesswork on that. We know that these two are going to be our camera feed wires. For that, we're just going to solder in an RCA. Alright, so the next test is to see if we can power this thing up. To do that, we've gone ahead and we have our wiring harness here. This is the factory one because we want constant power and ground. And what we're going to use to get our 6 volts is the Volt 3.9. Now, we've talked about this before. What's nice about this is it'll give us 3.35, 6, or 9 volts of output, which is perfect for this because if 6 doesn't work, we know the 9 will. We've gone ahead and connected the trigger and the accessory wire up to constant 12 volts. And of course, we have our ground. We'll go ahead and plug it in. What we want to do before we get to actually plugging it into the radio is test to make sure that we have 6 volts coming out, because nothing sucks worse than your tester not actually working. Alright, so we have power. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and attach these to what we think are power and ground. Alright, there we go. So 6 volts works. Alright, so we have the image on the screen here using the 6 volts. So a close-up view of the plug itself. This white-red trigger here is going to the yellow. The green is getting the ground from the Volt 3.9. Of course, you can see here where we soldered in our RCA connector. We have that plugged into our tester, which we can see up here as we just showed you. So we know now that we're good on the backup camera. So that is one of the many things that we need to do working. And that is one of the most important things. We're good. We've got those notes. We hope you guys were paying attention. And if you weren't, watch it again.
Watch it again, exactly.
We get a lot of questions on how do I retain my backup camera, and a lot of them are with Hondas, because it seems like nobody's making an adapter for a Honda. I know you guys don't have the CCD tester like we do, but you can use any screen. It doesn't matter. You can even use the new screen that you're putting in. I wouldn't, but you can. And of course, you have to have a digital multimeter. If you don't have one of those by now,
go to Home Depot right now.
Or the cheap tool store. You can almost get them free at the cheap tool store.
Home Depot like $10.
Either way, get a digital multimeter.
All right, so the first thing you're gonna do to take the door panel out is grab your pry tool and start from the tweeter. Then you're gonna grab a pick tool. It's a rubber. Then you need to take it out. handle part, be careful with the angle tip tool. Make sure you check that it's no screws on the bottom or on the side. And then from the inside, just try to pop out the switches from the window. Now we have our speaker out. So because in this one we're going to put the 7-inch cane width, we have to make a speaker mount. Alright, so I cut the rest of the cane width bracket. I trim it, put it in the car, and mark what we need to cut of the metal. And also I mark my dots right here, so we can put some rivets, screw the bracket, and then the speaker.
All right, so Fernando's got this side just about wrapped up. We wanted to take a look at it before we put the door back on. All right, so down here in the bottom, we have the mid-base all in place. He used the rivet nuts to hold it, and then of course the foam on there is the Kenwood foam that it comes with. It's just button up, adding in the crossover for the tweeter, and then we have the tweeter mounted into place. It'll clip right in, and boom. That's one door done. One of the nice things about these Kenwoods, as we said it before, they come with foam. They come with all kinds of foam. They come with back foam, front foam. So it's almost like getting a fast ring in the box. It's kind of a nice feature that they come with. Now, we did have to cut the door to get these to go in. It was worth it. We want that extra mid-base that these are gonna give us. Because remember, we're only going with an 8, and he likes a lot of mid-base. I'm excited. Honestly, at the end of the day, I really can't wait to hear this. This is one of the first times we've done this particular combination. Anyways, let's get back to it.